Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do. Every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA, and of course nationwide over the airways of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM style, channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. We'll get into a little NBA stuff, especially with Houston losing to the Los Angeles Lakers last night. What we're seeing from the Lakers, the promise that we're seeing from the Lakers. CP3, former Los Angeles Clipper, now with the Houston Rockets, going down, 32 years of age, turned down $200 million. How wise does his decision look at this particular juncture? He's already missed 14 games this season. Something to get into as the show progresses on this day. Clearly, we got some folks with the New York Giants. They're looking at a new GM prospects. One of them reportedly is our very own Louis Riddick. I'll be touching on that a little bit later on in the show as well. I got a few other things because there's a lot of NFL items to get into, no doubt about that. But I got a few other things on my mind off the field. And I will openly confess that on a day like today, it's a dicey show. Because with the things that I feel and the things that I want to say, people will take it wrong. They just might. And I got to tell you something right now. I think that when you're sitting in this seat, you got to be willing to tackle certain issues. One involves Ezekiel Elliott. The other involves Cam Newton. I just got to say what needs to be said. First things first with Ezekiel Elliott. He returns off of his 6-week hiatus because he had to stomach the suspension that was handed down to him by the National Football League and Commissioner Roger Goodell. And so he comes back and he addresses the media. And the manner in which he addressed the media, I saw no contrition. I saw nothing apologetic. I saw no sorry. I saw nothing. I didn't see a guy that was willing to apologize to his teammates. Not to say that he did it, but to apologize to the fan base out there that he left hanging for 6 weeks. I saw a guy that was a bit truculent that refused. I shouldn't go that far, not truculent, because he wasn't abrasive. He wasn't disrespectful. He's just very direct and to the point. Didn't want to talk about certain things. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I'm saying that he didn't do as much right as he could have. Listening to Ezekiel Elliott, you would think he's the victim. Listening to Ezekiel Elliott, you would think he was done wrong. And guess what? If you want to make the argument of you, Ezekiel Elliott, that Roger Goodell and the National Football League tried to taint you as a domestic abuser, you have a point. Roger Goodell and the National Football League had no business sticking their nose into those things as extensively as they did, where you're trying to literally classify whether he was guilty or innocent of such transgressions that took place on July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016, when he was a member of the Dallas Cowboys and found himself back in Columbus, Ohio, where he started Ohio State, getting himself into incidences of domestic violence on 5 separate occasions over that 3-day span with his girlfriend. Hey, for all we know, he might be innocent. I don't know. Seemed pretty damn guilty to me based on the NFL's investigation. But then I just made the argument that the NFL had no business investigating to that point where they're publicizing their findings to that point as if they're the FBI or the DEA or the ATF or local law enforcement officials or a prosecutor or whatever the case may be. It's ridiculous. They had no business doing that. The flip side to it, however, is that they did it anyway. You're Ezekiel Elliott and you're a player. And whether you're innocent or not, you know and you knew that the ultimate power lied with the commissioner. And if the commissioner decided to hand down a 6-game punishment You know good and damn well you didn't have any business fighting it all these months where you ultimately cost yourself a playoff berth. Because let's be real, ladies and gentlemen, the Dallas Cowboys' destiny is not in their own hands. They can win both games and they still need help from Detroit, from Atlanta, etc. They need help. And I can make the argument that that's easily on the shoulders of Ezekiel Elliott. Had you dropped it from day one and served the 6-game suspension at the start of the season, you'd have been back already. 10 games remaining in the season. Free to live your life and ball. But you didn't do it. And so you're out there yesterday talking to the media, giving one-word answers, turning your back and saying you refuse to talk about it. Guess what? All you're doing is setting the stage to be further scrutinized. And then he alluded to a documentary that he's working on that'll tell his story. For what? You think at this particular juncture, at this particular point in time, you're going to change the court of public opinion? Because that's the only reason why you would want to do something like this, unless you're looking to get paid, which is always possible. I just don't think it's smart. He's, hey, assuming he's innocent like he claims he is, he's not a criminal. If he is guilty of domestic violence and he would know that, then damn right he's a criminal. Somehow, somewhere along the way, I just don't know how wise it was for him to take the stance that he took yesterday. You're inviting an elevated level of scrutiny that I'm not sure necessarily works to your advantage. 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. That's one item I want to get into. The other item is Cam Newton. Cam Newton's probably going to be in the news. Well, he's already in the news. And people are interpreting his words as that being in support of Jerry Richardson. Because Jerry Richardson, the owner for the Carolina Panthers, owns 48% of the team, has controlling interest. He's the boss. That man, Jerry Richardson, is going to sell the team at the end of the season in light of allegations of misconduct that have been leveled against him, sexual, racial, and others. According to reports revealed by Sports Illustrated over the weekend, at least 4 cases have been settled. Cam Newton says until further evidence is revealed, he still respects the man. He's going to stand by him. And there's a lot of people that have a problem with him. You're not listening to one of them. People settle cases, even when they're not guilty, because they don't want to be in the news for the wrong reasons. It happens throughout our legal system all the time. That's not to absolve Jerry Richardson from anything. For all we know, he might be a pervert. I don't know whether he's racist or not, but I know there's a lot of black folks he's made very, very uncomfortable, particularly during collective bargaining negotiations with the Players Association. Nobody's trying to give Jerry Richardson a pass here. And I really don't think that's what Cam was doing. I think what Cam was doing was alluding to a bigger issue that we all want to sit up there and try to evade. It's the big elephant in the room. And that is this. There are an abundance of men out here in this world that are absolutely petrified that a mere allegation is enough to ruin their careers. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Bill O'Reilly. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Matt Lauer. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Charlie Rose. They don't have a case, it appears, when they point to Russell Simmons. But there does seem to be a climate that exists where it says, hey, an allegation is all that's needed and you're done. Listen to Cam Newton. And that's what he appeared to be alluding to.
Before I say anything,
he didn't even talk about Jerry Richardson that much. He mentioned Jerry Richardson as an aside. Save the sound for later, y'all. Talk about Jerry Richardson as an aside. He was really pointing to a bigger issue. And I'm going to talk about that, even though practically no one else will. And I'm going to preface my comments by saying this. If you are a man and you are guilty of any form of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, sexual harassment, you deserve what the hell you get. I don't even mind if you go to prison. Shame on you. Nobody should defend that. But that's not what Cam was talking about. That's a conversation that's unavoidable. 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Let's get hot and heavy with it. It's the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. What did you expect?
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I've never felt more alive.
Disclaimer. Geico cannot guarantee you will feel more alive. You either possess functioning respiratory and circulatory systems, or you do not, or you are a zombie. If you are indeed a brain-starved zombie and you would like to save money on car insurance, the Geico legal team applauds your excellent life choices, even in your shambling afterlife. But we strongly encourage you to visit geico.com or download the Geico app. Please stay a minimum of 500 feet away from our large and presumably delicious, delicious brains.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
If I say anything, I take sexual assault extremely serious. But allegations, that's a different thing. Having a person of influence, person, with so much responsibility, you always are set to a higher standard. No doubt about it. But in this day and time, it's almost you're automatically guilty until proven innocent, rather than in the rights of the judicial system, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. So everything that I've heard were allegations, and nothing was actually proven. It's just another person's word versus that person's word. But needless to say, man, I still think extremely highly of Mr. Richardson.
There you have it. Last part, I don't know if it's appropriate to say you think really, really highly of a man that settled 4 different cases involving misconduct. But in the same breath, he has a personal relationship with the man. He believes he knows the man better than those reporting on the man. And one would surmise he's correct. But if you listen to Cam Newton speak on this issue, most of what he was saying had very, very little to do with Richardson. He was talking about things in general in terms of the society that we're living in and what these times are and what these times exist right now. Now, let me say this to the men out here. When you think about the climate that exists at this particular moment in time, make no mistake about it, that a lot of it is justified. Men brought it on ourselves. You may not have sexually harassed anybody. You may not have sexually assaulted anybody. But when women were going through the things that they were going through in the workplace and beyond, there is no doubt that by and large, they were victimized. There's no way to slice it. Statistically, that's proven. Listen to women and their horror stories. You cannot ignore that. There's legitimacy to those things. And there's a level of sensitivity that's required when it comes to it. Absolutely, positively correct. And it is also true that more often than not, hesitancy and reluctance to come forward stemmed from potential ramifications and repercussions that would come down the line for being so brave to be forthcoming. As from a societal perspective, as men, we have to own that. There's legitimacy to that. To the women out there, however, there is a flip side. And here's where it lies. There's a whole bunch of men out here. Not only men who have never sexually assaulted anybody. Not only men who have never sexually harassed anybody. But also 99 times out of 100 at the least. If a woman was being harmed or in trouble in any way at the hands of a man and other men knew about it, it would be men who would come to their rescue. So when Cam Newton opens his mouth and he sits up there and he says, hey, these allegations, he's not necessarily talking about Jerry Richardson. He's talking about a climate that exists. Now, to be fair, some of the people who have fallen, whose careers are in shambles or have flat out evaporated, well, how can you defend it? If there's any truth to the reports about Bill O'Reilly, the reports about Matt Lauer, the reports about Charlie Rose, and C.K. Lewis, whomever, Russell Simmons, whomever, it's indefensible. Can't defend that. So in that breath, absolutely. But if you have folks walking around that have never assaulted or never harassed anybody, and they're worried because they were consensually flirting with somebody, and how that could be interpreted in such a fashion that it could cost them their careers, you can understand how people might be in panic mode. I don't happen to have that problem. But there are men that are very worried about that because of the climate that we're living in. And the hypocrisy in all of it is that you have legislators and elected officials who are not only being subjected to less scrutiny, but even less punishment. And they're legislating our lives. But the modern day athlete and pundit or pundits have a whole lot to be worried about. Something about that seems backwards. I'm talking about in terms of the accountability, because I brought up the elected officials. Something about that doesn't seem right. Don't think for one second that that's what Cam Newton was not alluding to. Because it's all the athletes are talking about. It's all folks in the sports world and beyond are talking about in this day and age. And whether we like it or not, that's reality. 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. That's the number to call in. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio. Can't wait to get your phone calls on these subjects. Plus, I'll get into LaVar Ball starting his own league a little bit later on in the show. Lakers beating Houston last night. That's something else to get into as well. And did you hear Dan Le Batard and Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred go at it yesterday? Well, if you didn't, you'll hear it here today. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Remember, I'll get into LaVar Ball and his new venture in just a minute. But for now, let's go to the phones. Jay and Callie, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, good morning, sir. First-time caller.
Thank you.
So I'm not saying I'm an expert at this kind of stuff, but
Neither am I, by the way. Neither am I. Go ahead.
I've helped men with, I've counseled plenty of men with sexual addiction and whatnot. I'm not saying this is going up, but it's kind of paralleling what might be going on here. But a lot of these men have one thing in common. They're from the 70s generation, not Ezekiel Elliott, but the men that you mentioned, the free love 70s generation.
You know why? Time out. You know why? Stop. You know why I want you to move on from that point? Because there are women that are in this world right now suffering at the hands of dudes that were born far later than the 70s. So I'm not saying, I'm not telling you that your point goes unnoticed. It's just irrelevant at this particular moment in time, especially to those women. Let's be sensitive to that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I've done both sides, either with men singly or with married couples and whatnot. But America has a big problem with pornography. America has been exposed to allowing a lot of different things to be subjected to the generations at a very early state in everybody's life and whatnot. Now, everybody's got choices.
Fair enough, but what does that have to do with somebody like Ezekiel Elliott and what he endured? What does that have to do with Cam Newton's comments about Jerry Richardson? Ezekiel Elliott is 22. Jerry Richardson, the owner for the Carolina Panthers, is 81 years of age. Bring it to, put a bow on it. Break it, close your summation with that. Talk to me about that.
Well, I would say as far as Ezekiel Elliott, I mean, some of the pictures that I saw of the choice of the woman that he chose to go out with there, I mean, that wouldn't be my choice. I mean,
so what does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? And how could you tell by just a picture? You have any idea? You have any idea how? Listen. You called up here to say you've worked with this, you've worked with that. You don't sound like any kind of an expert whatsoever, sir. I got to be honest with you. I'm trying to be respectful. But you don't sound like any kind of an expert whatsoever. You don't sound like anybody who has any experience in this whatsoever. And to be quite honest with you, your words are very, very, very disrespectful. Because to sit up there and point to a picture, or the type of woman that he was around, just look at the picture. What does that have to do with anything? You know how to behave or you don't?
Yeah, I mean, you have to behave accordingly. You got to be a gentleman, but we are all sexual by nature.
Goodbye, man. Have a nice day. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the ignorance that came out of that man's mouth. Yes, we are sexual by nature, I suppose. I'm not going to apologize. I mean, it's Mickey Mouse Network, but let's be clear. I like it. I know any and everybody I know likes sex, but that's not the point. You don't sit up there and use that as an excuse. I've never sexually assaulted or harassed somebody in my life. And there's no excuse for doing it. And I had a caller just call up here who's a grown man who talks about working with people that have these issues, and he's excusing it. I'm embarrassed that man was on the airwaves. My apologies. B.A., you're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
Hey, man, pleasure to talk to you for the first time.
Thank you.
So I just think that you want it both ways. Now, you the talk master, so just give me a second and explain what I'm saying.
It depends on what you say.
You said that the people settle for just because they don't want the drama. But at the same time,
no, I did not say that.
Go ahead.
I did not say that.
Okay, go ahead.
I said sometimes they do. In our system of government, that does happen. That happens to be a fact.
Okay, so let's address the sometimes they do. You can't then now turn around and say, well, if he got kicked out of there for selling 4 times, you can't be down with him. That may be one of the cases where the guy just settled because he didn't want to be dealing with all that.
No, I'm not down with either position. Hold on. I'm not down with either position. What I'm saying is when Cam Newton spoke about his owner, he was speaking generically about the times that we're living in, but as it pertained to him specifically, when he made the statement, well, you know what? I have to see more. I have to learn more about what actually transpired before I condemn this man, because that's not the man that I know. He's coming from a place where he believes he knows the guy. I'm not talking about me. I've never met Jerry Richardson. I don't know him.
Okay, but what is wrong with Cam saying that? He's saying.
I don't think there was.
I'm going to give him.
That's my point.
Let me make my point.
I don't think there was anything wrong with what Cam said. Didn't you listen to me?
I did. I just want to make a point, man. I'm a father of 3 daughters. I'm down with what you're saying. If these guys out here doing this man, they get what they get. Okay, right. But please do not confuse these companies, these media organizations, cutting these guys loose because they care about the women. They don't want to be sued. They don't want to be liable. Those same companies that are cutting people off and firing them for allegations, they're the same companies that don't even have women in their boardroom. These are the same companies that don't even pay women the same amount of money.
I guess what I'm trying to, I'll let you speak, but you haven't said anything that I disagree with.
Well, this is one thing I do want to say. Let me make this clear. It's like when you got these police shootings out here, and the cops say, "Well, I feared for my life."
Okay.
Everybody knows that there's no way to challenge that. You don't know what a person's feeling. Okay, so you got guys getting off scot-free for killing people because of what they say they felt. Now the problem with these situations that are coming up with the women and the men at the workplace is we don't know if the woman honestly in her heart felt like she had to do this, and that's a problem. So
that's an interesting take. That's an interesting take. That's an interesting take.
So that's all I'm saying as a father of 3 girls is that if you, like the Matt Lauer thing, if you went and dated a man for 30 days, at some point, when does he feel like it? When does he get to be comfortable and think that, okay, this is okay?
That's a bad example. And the reason why it's a bad example, because that's not why, according to the reports, that's not why that particular individual you mentioned got himself into trouble. But I do get what you're saying, and I do understand your point, BA, and so a lot of it is legitimate where you're coming from. I appreciate the call, man. Thanks so much. 866-729-3776, 866-SAY-ESPN. Back with more of the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio in a minute.
Give Stephen A. piece of your mind.
He is sorry.
Call him weekdays from 1 till 3 Eastern.
I mean, just trash.
At 866-729-3776.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Later on in the show, we're going to get a little bit more into the Los Angeles Lakers beating the Houston Rockets last night. Kyle Kuzma, the best rookie on the Los Angeles Lakers, dropping 38 last night against the Rockets. Meanwhile, Chris Paul just running around, next thing you know, groin injury, abductor, whatever the hell it is, abductor strain or whatever. He's already missed 14 games this year. 32 years old. Turned down $200 million. Didn't want to play with Doc Rivers anymore. I hope he's okay. Because, boy, when he's healthy, he is something special to watch as a point guard. No doubt about that. One of the other things we'll get into is LaVar Ball wanting to start his own basketball league. Rife with high school All-Americans that may not want to go to college. Somebody with some deep pockets is helping this man out. Somebody's doing it. Because I can't imagine advertising and sponsors going to be lined up to help him. I mean, if you got Ice Cube with the 3-on-3 basketball tournament, which airs, by the way, on FS1 around the summertime, if he has some issues finding or garnering an elevated level of support, what's the big baller brand going to have? And by the way, if you had to choose between the two, who you going with? Just something interesting and worth discussing. No question about it. Right here at the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, 866-729-3776, 866-SAY-ESPN. Back to the calls we go. Let's see. Let's go to Jason. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Jason?
Hey, Stephen, man. Thanks for having me on. I listened to you for a while. You know, a lot of times you come up with stuff that's really argumentative, but I'm going to tell you right now, man, I'm on board with you. You know what? Cam knows Jerry. All his drafting and the conversations when he got brought into the league, it's very easy for us and other people to sit outside here when you're not a part of a situation and condemn somebody else purely off of what's said around. You know, give him. He knows the man. He says he knows the man. Who am I to argue with him? I don't know him.
I tell you, Jason, I didn't get that. You know, he wants to support the man, no question about it. But the man is 81 years old. It's not like they're hanging out like they're bosom buddies every day. Let's be clear about that. The other thing is that we need to understand something. If you really, really listen to Cam's words, he was speaking from a macro perspective. It wasn't even about Jerry Richardson. It was about the climate that we're living in, where a mere assertion or an allegation can ruin careers and potentially lives. And you have a lot of people that are very, very concerned about that. And I think that's what Cam was speaking towards. That's what I believe, Jason.
I believe you're right. You're right on with it. That's the way it is nowadays. An accusation is immediate guilt. And if you stand up against that accusation, you're an enabler.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are the times that we're living in right now. And that's why it's so scary for so many people, because you have a lot of people out there who are innocent and they're scared. So you know the guilty should be. They should be scared, and I'm glad they're scared. But for the innocent ones, it's a different climate that we're living in. But women will say, that's what we had to deal with. We were innocent. We didn't bring this upon ourselves. We didn't ask to be harassed or assaulted, and look what we had to worry about. So you have both sides.
It's a double-edged blade. You just, you know, I feel bad for everybody involved. I honestly do. But being a man and a man from the South, I really feel bad for the ladies too. But what, Stephen? What do we do? What do we do as fans, as the public? What do we do?
You wait until the evidence shows itself. You decry and condemn such actions. But in the midst of doing all of that, you also recognize that someone is innocent until they're found to be guilty. And then you have to operate. That's what we're based upon as a country. We can't deviate from that. We just can't. We don't have an option. Thank you for the call, Jason. Appreciate it. JP in Brooklyn, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Go ahead, buddy.
Now, how much of this is Cam Newton worried about, you know, somebody like P. Diddy coming in to buy the team and talking about bringing in Colin Kaepernick, you know, which really don't make no sense when you have somebody like Cam Newton. It's like having, you know, Joe Montana, and you're talking about bringing in, another big time quarterback. Yeah, mm-hmm. Steve Young, you know, to compete for a job. Not even, you know, the young Joe Montana.
Yeah, but I don't think that's why Cam was speaking, you know, about Jerry Richardson or the issues of allegations.
No, the question is how much of that factor in the reason why he is, you know, saying, you know, I could understand, and I kind of agree with him. You know, people are innocent, especially if they have a relationship with this guy. You know, I believe he has a relationship with the owner. You know, this is your franchise quarterback. You really going to tell me he doesn't know where he lives, or he don't have his phone number on speed dial?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just talking about it. I'm just talking about 81-year-old ain't partying with a 28-year-old. That's all I meant by that. Nothing more. But go ahead.
They still cool. They still tight. You know. Could I make another point? You know,
hurry up.
A different point.
Just hurry up. Go ahead.
Giants. Okay. Now, Landon Collins said that, you know, they shouldn't draft a quarterback, you know, because he likes, you know, this backup quarterback, David Webb, and he's the future. We don't draft a quarterback. What do you think about drafting, you know, defensive lineman with that number one pick?
Not at all. I don't like it. If you're not going to draft a quarterback and you're in the New York Giants, you need to draft an offensive lineman. And since you don't want to spend a top 3 pick on an offensive lineman, you got to grab a quarterback. You got to have an heir apparent with Eli Manning, who's over 36 years of age, who hasn't missed the start up until this season for the previous 13 years. There does come a point in time where your time may be up and you have to move in a different direction. And I think if you can start with a quarterback there, you should do it. I look at Rosen. I look at Mayfield, and I say there are quarterbacks there that could potentially get the job done. Was Carson Wentz or Jared Goff's reputation any better than those dudes coming out of college? I don't think so. And look at what they've turned into. I say you roll the dice and take a chance on the quarterback.
Yeah, but he's saying that they got David Webb. Why get a quarterback if you have David Webb?
Because that's his feeling, but I haven't heard any of the coaches say that.
Oh,
and by the way, we got 2 games to go where we could see Davis Webb. Throw him in there. Put him in there and show us what he's got. Because I don't think we're equipped to answer that question from an intelligent perspective until we do. Until we see him. We haven't seen him. I've never seen him.
You don't want to hear this, but like I told you before, I'm on a Teddy Bridgewater bandwagon. Bring Teddy Bridgewater to this team, and you'll see a difference.
Okay. All right. I don't believe it, but I get where you're coming from, and I appreciate the call, JP. Thank you so much. Let's go to Chris in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Chris. Go ahead.
Oh, Stephen A. Okay, I wanted to make 3 quick points on the Lakers-Rockets last night.
Just make them because you only got a minute, so just go ahead and make all 3.
Okay, real quick. Kuzma was asked after the game if he saw this coming, and one word answer for him was basically definitely. That's something I want to see from Lonzo, just the mindset. And 2 points on Houston. Number 1, ultimately, I don't see how they can beat the Warriors when they obviously was the people who want to be dethroned. I don't see how that offense is going to beat them. And number 2, Houston is really not that athletic on the perimeter, Stephen A. Their best athlete might be Clint Capella, and that's scary because I don't see how they match up with Golden State. I know you got to let me go, but that's something that stood out to me yesterday when I watched them against the Warriors.
Chris, I don't think they match up with Golden State, number 1. Number 2, all of that one-on-one dancing that James Harden was doing last night, that's the kind of stuff that makes you lose in the playoffs, not win. Obviously, they need Chris Paul healthy and what have you, but I do give them a significant shot against anybody else because of their ability to shoot the basketball. Now, it does not look good, even though it's a meaningless regular season game for the most part. It does not look good when the Lakers, who rank dead last in 3-point shooting percentage, comes into your house and beats you. And a rookie by the name of Kuzma drops 38 along the way. That's not a good look. But we shall see. I appreciate the call, Chris. Thank you so much. 866-729-3776. Hour number 2 up next. Darren Woodson will be in the house. Plus, we'll talk LaVar Ball in his new league. Stick around. Stephen A., ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show here with you for the next hour over the airwaves of ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. Number to call up, as always, is 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Don't know if y'all heard the news. LaVar Ball plans to start his own league for high school graduates. ESPN's Darren Rovell and others reported yesterday. LaVar Ball said yesterday that he's launching a basketball league for nationally ranked players who have graduated from high school but don't want to go to college. Ball said his Junior Basketball Association, which he said is fully funded by his Big Baller brand, plans to pay the lowest ranked player a salary of $3,000 a month and the best player $10,000 a month. Ball is looking for 80 players to fill 10 teams that will seek to play at NBA arenas in Los Angeles, Dallas, Brooklyn, and Atlanta. This is what he told ESPN yesterday. Getting these players is going to be easy. This is giving guys a chance to get a jump start on their career, to be seen by pro scouts, And we're going to pay them because someone has to pay these kids. Ball said the rules of his league will follow those of the NBA instead of college. 12-minute quarters and a pro three-point line. He also said he was partly motivated by the comments made earlier in the month by NCAA President Mark Emmert, who was asked at a Sports Business Journal conference whether Ball was good or bad for the college game. This was the quote from Emmert. Is this about someone being part of a university and playing basketball or any other sport with that school's jersey on, representing that institution? Or is it about preparing me for my career, my professional career as a ball player? Emmett responded just a few days after Ball's son LeAngelo left UCLA to turn pro before even playing for the school. If it's the latter, And here was Ball's response. He was right. Those kids who are one and done, they shouldn't be there with the NCAA trying to hold them hostage, not allowing them to keep the jersey they wear while selling replicas of them in stores. So our guy isn't going to go to Florida State for a year. He's going to come to our league. Doesn't bother me at all. And the reason why it doesn't bother me at all is because I don't think educational inflation and regular inflation, all of this stuff, take those things into consideration. We get it. Think about all of those things. You don't see college athletes being able to do anything that these administrators, these coaches, and what have you are able to do. And the way I look at it, kids, particularly the ones that are going to be one and done, here's a flip side. Do you trust Ball to be the one to do that? Particularly in the best interest of the kids. He's been a good father. Regardless of LeAngelo's transgression in China, the fact of the matter is he had never been in any trouble before or since. LaMelo, same thing. Lonzo, same thing. You really like him. But I got to tell you, I don't approve of him pulling his son out of high school. I don't approve of that. I don't agree with that. And this take your ball and go home every time you don't get your way, I don't know how wise that is. I don't know if that's the kind of lesson that you should be teaching. Now, once a kid graduates from high school, the assumption is they're at least 18 years of age, and as a result, the right guidance, the right leadership, and all that comes with it. Is this the right man for that job? And he seems to be saying if the NCAA can exploit the kids, why don't I just do that? At least I'm putting money in their pocket. He'll still be exploiting them for the big baller brand, and that ain't a crime. But it is what it is. And then I think about 3-on-3, and I ask y'all, you know what? LaVar Ball, Chino Hills. Ice Cube is one of your own. That 3-on-3 tournament that he has in the offseason with former NBA players, I love what Ice Cube did with that. Love it. Which one would you want to support more? To me, it would be 3-on-3. High school guys coming out. If you that damn good, go to college for a year. Or go to the pros. That's just me. I like LaVar Ball. I really do. He got his son, who may not even have been a lottery pick in any other year, got him to be the number 2 overall pick because, let's face reality, the Lakers had to take him. You couldn't pass on Lonzo Ball if you were Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka in your first year at the helm. You couldn't do it. Los Angeles would have went ballistic. They had no
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do. Every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio. That's 98.7 FM New York City. That's 710 ESPN LA, and of course nationwide over the airways of ESPN Radio. Sirius XM style, channel 80. Number to call up as always is 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. Got a jam-packed show coming your way today. We'll get into a little NBA stuff, especially with Houston losing to the Los Angeles Lakers last night. What we're seeing from the Lakers, the promise that we're seeing from the Lakers. CP3, former Los Angeles Clipper, now with the Houston Rockets, going down, 32 years of age, turned down $200 million How wise does his decision look at this particular juncture? He's already missed 14 games this season. Something to get into as the show progresses on this day. Clearly, we got some folks with the New York Giants. They're looking at a new GM prospects. One of them reportedly is our very own Louis Riddick. I'll be touching on that a little bit later on in the show as well. I got a few other things because there's a lot of NFL items to get into, no doubt about that. But I got a few other things on my mind off the field. And I will openly confess that on a day like today, it's a dicey show because with the things that I feel and the things that I want to say, people will take it wrong. They just might. And I got to tell you something right now. I think that when you're sitting in this seat, you got to be willing to tackle certain issues. One involves Ezekiel Elliott. The other involves Cam Newton. I just got to say what needs to be said. First things first with Ezekiel Elliott. He returns off of his 6-week hiatus because he had to stomach the suspension that was handed down to him by the National Football League and Commissioner Roger Goodell. And so he comes back and he addresses the media. And the manner in which he addressed the media, I saw no contrition. I saw nothing apologetic. I saw no sorry. I saw nothing. I didn't see a guy that was willing to apologize to his teammates. Not to say that he did it, but to apologize to the fan base out there that he left hanging for 6 weeks. I saw a guy that was a bit truculent that refused. I shouldn't go that far, not truculent, because he wasn't abrasive. He wasn't disrespectful. He's just very direct and to the point. Didn't want to talk about certain things. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I'm saying that he didn't do as much right as he could have. Listening to Ezekiel Elliott, you would think he's the victim. Listening to Ezekiel Elliott, you would think he was done wrong. And guess what? If you want to make the argument of you, Ezekiel Elliott, that Roger Goodell and the National Football League tried to taint you as a domestic abuser, you have a point. Roger Goodell and the National Football League had no business sticking their nose into those things as extensively as they did, where you're trying to literally classify whether he was guilty or innocent of such transgressions that took place on July 17th, 19th, and 21st of 2016 when he was a member of the Dallas Cowboys and found himself back in Columbus, Ohio, where he started Ohio State, getting himself into incidences of domestic violence on 5 separate occasions over that 3-day span with his girlfriend. Hey, for all we know, he might be innocent. I don't know. Seemed pretty damn guilty to me based on the NFL's investigation. But then I just made the argument that the NFL had no business investigating to that point where they're publicizing their findings to that point as if they're the FBI or the DEA or the ATF or local law enforcement officials or a prosecutor or whatever the case may be. It's ridiculous. They had no business doing that. The flip side to it, however, is that they did it anyway. You're Ezekiel Elliott and you're a player. And whether you're innocent or not, you know and you knew that the ultimate power lied with the commissioner. And if the commissioner decided to hand down a 6-game punishment, you know good and damn well you didn't have any business fighting it all these months where you ultimately cost yourself a playoff berth. Because let's be real, ladies and gentlemen, the Dallas Cowboys' destiny is not in their own hands. They can win both games and they still need help from Detroit, from Atlanta, etc. They need help. And I can make the argument that that's easily on the shoulders of Ezekiel Elliott. Had you dropped it from day one and served the 6-game suspension at the start of the season, you'd have been back already. 10 games remaining in the season. Free to live your life and ball. But you didn't do it. And so you're out there yesterday talking to the media, giving one-word answers, turning your back and saying you refuse to talk about it. Guess what? All you're doing is setting the stage to be further scrutinized. And then he alluded to a documentary that he's working on that'll tell his story. For what? You think at this particular juncture, at this particular point in time, you're going to change the court of public opinion? Because that's the only reason why you would want to do something like this, unless you're looking to get paid, which is always possible. I just don't think it's smart. He's, hey, assuming he's innocent like he claims he is, he's not a criminal. If he is guilty of domestic violence and he would know that, then damn right he's a criminal. Somehow, somewhere along the way, I just don't know how wise it was for him to take the stance that he took yesterday. You're inviting an elevated level of scrutiny that I'm not sure necessarily works to your advantage. 866-729-3776. That's 866-SAY-ESPN. That's one item I want to get into. The other item is Cam Newton. Cam Newton's probably going to be in the news. Well, he's already in the news. And people are interpreting his words as that being in support of Jerry Richardson. Because Jerry Richardson, the owner for the Carolina Panthers, owns 48% of the team, has controlling interest. He's the boss. That man, Jerry Richardson, is going to sell the team at the end of the season in light of allegations of misconduct that have been leveled against him, sexual, racial, and others. According to reports revealed by Sports Illustrated over the weekend, at least 4 cases have been settled. Cam Newton says until further evidence is revealed, he still respects the man. He's going to stand by him. And there's a lot of people that have a problem with him. You're not listening to one of them. People settle cases, even when they're not guilty, because they don't want to be in the news for the wrong reasons. It happens throughout our legal system all the time. That's not to absolve Jerry Richardson from anything. For all we know, he might be a pervert. I don't know whether he's racist or not, but I know there's a lot of black folks he's made very, very uncomfortable, particularly during collective bargaining negotiations with the Players Association. Nobody's trying to give Jerry Richardson a pass here. And I really don't think that's what Cam was doing. I think what Cam was doing was alluding to a bigger issue that we all want to sit up there and try to evade. It's the big elephant in the room. And that is this. There are an abundance of men out here in this world that are absolutely petrified that a mere allegation is enough to ruin their careers. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Bill O'Reilly. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Matt Lauer. They don't have a case, it appears, when it points to Charlie Rose. They don't have a case, it appears, when they point to Russell Simmons. But there does seem to be a climate that exists where it says, hey, an allegation is all that's needed and you're done. Listen to Cam Newton. And that's what he appeared to be alluding to.
Before I say anything,
he didn't even talk about Jerry Richardson that much. He mentioned Jerry Richardson as an aside. Save the sound for later, y'all. Talk about Jerry Richardson as an aside. He was really pointing to a bigger issue. And I'm going to Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Darren? Talk to me. Darren, are you there? Darren? Rich in L.A., you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Rich, are you? Muhammad, go ahead. Muhammad in L.A.
Stephen A.
Go ahead, man.
I just wanted to talk about what you mentioned earlier about this new political climate in which, people or men now are going to be held accountable for what they've done and just the targeting of men. And I just wanted to say that I really think this is a movement that we're experiencing firsthand. It's a women's movement. It is selected. It is targeting men who have privileged positions. They're elite.
Is it fair? Because the fact of the matter is, based on what I'm seeing, some of these men that have suffered, guess what? Deservedly so. Because if they're guilty of the things that they've been accused of, and some of them have admitted guilt, then they deserve what the hell they get. So let's not label it as if, men are being unfairly accused. We do need to be mindful of that, do we not?
Oh, no, I'm not saying they're being unfairly accused. Okay. I'm just simply stating that women are challenging this climate of misogyny. They've had enough of it. They're saying, that's it. We're not going to take any more of this. We have a voice, and they're using it. And, to the men that have done these heinous acts, I mean, you deserve exactly what you get. Whether they're guilty or not, I do not know. But it's something for men.
The only thing that I want to say, and I think I'm saying it on behalf of me, you, and all the men out here who are not guilty of such things, the men who have done these things that these women are claiming, and no sympathy from me. You deserve what you get. You deserve what you get. Okay? My only thing is I want to make sure that a lot of women out there understand that there are a lot of damn good men out here who would never, ever, ever do such a thing, who stand in full support of those women who have been victimized. But just like men stand up, and we will call out those men who have transgressed and acknowledge that they deserve their comeuppance, I want women to make sure that they feel the same way about other women who lie on men too. And there may be far fewer cases of those than the truthful cases that women bring forth and bring to our attention. And we applaud them for doing so. But there's a lot of men out there that would never, ever think of doing some of the things or transgressing in the way that some of these men have conducted themselves. And I want those men to be remembered as well.
I agree 100%. Right. And I just want to say one more point off the topic. I just want to say these Rams, man, they're special. There's something about them. I got a funny feeling about them. I think they can hang with anybody in the league. They've lost to some of the top-tier teams, but they've also beat some of them, and they've been close games. I think they're
Los Angeles Rams
are
real. The Los Angeles Rams are real. We're going to find out more about them during the playoffs, but they got an elite defense and they got a running game. And when you have those two components, you can usually succeed in the playoffs. Jeff Fish isn't coaching this team. McVay is coaching his team. He's my coach of the year without question, hands down. And when I look at Jared Goff, it's been sensational. And you acquired Sammy Watkins, and you still got Todd Gurley, and you still got that defense. The Rams are no joke. Make no mistake about it. I just think they need to avoid going to Lincoln Financial Field or to Minnesota. They can avoid those two trips. I think they'll be just fine. They might even go to the Super Bowl. Appreciate the call. Let's go to Edwin in New Jersey. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead.
How you doing, Stephen A. Smith? First-time caller. I love your show.
Thank you.
I want to talk about my San Francisco 49ers.
Oh,
Lord.
Off topic. Why would you want to talk about the San Francisco 49ers?
Oh, man. I'm a biggest fan. I love them. I watch them every week. I know it's been depressing the last couple of years after the whole Kaepernick failing to make it into the touchdown on Super Bowl. But I think we're on the up and up. Next year, I think will be a playoff-bound year. What do you think about Jimmy G? I know he's been looking good out there, throwing for 300 yards the last 2 or 3 games. What do you think about that?
Look, first of all, his name is Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm not giving him a nickname yet, even though he is 3-0 as a starter. They've won 3 straight. He's completing 68.7% of his passes. He's already thrown for over 1,000 yards. He's got a QBR of 78 and a quarterback rating of 98. They clearly have their quarterback of the future. I will tell you that. Then it doesn't look like the 49ers need to look for a quarterback, and those players seem to be rallying behind him. They are 3-0 with Jimmy G as a starter. They were 1-10 without him. That says a lot to me.
I appreciate that. You think that we'll be making the playoffs or something like that within the next year or so?
Well,
I mean, we lost.
Let's pump the
we
brakes.
lost 5 games in a row.
Whoa. You just won a few games. You've been irrelevant the last 2 years. Pump the brakes. I mean, there is parity in the National Football League. You can turn things around in one season, assuming you make the right personnel moves. But with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I mean, I gotta give my hats off, give credit where credit is due. But do I think they're gonna make the playoffs? No. I do think they will continue to be respectable. I think a team like next year, they end up probably going 8-8, maybe even 9-7. But I'm not going to sit up there and say you're playing in the NFC West that you automatically are going to be a playoff team now that you got a quarterback. Jimmy G looks impressive thus far, but let's see.
All right, I respect that. Thanks so much, Stephen A.
Take it easy, man. Happy holidays, bro. Shakir in Jersey, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
How you doing, Stephen A? Calling from New Jersey. I want to talk about two topics. Number one, I want to talk about LaVar Ball. I think what he's doing is very good because he reminds me of my dad a little bit. Okay. He pushes his son. He's into what he's doing. But I think the junior NBA, that's very much needed, and it needs to be a junior NFL because it's a lot of inner city kids who are not ready for college or who don't want to go to college, but they can play sports very well. And I think the opportunity would be very good. Let's ask this question.
Let me put you on pause for a second here. You got the 3-on-3 basketball league with Cube. You got the G League. The NBA Developmental League. And so when we look at it from that perspective, combined with college basketball, what about those who would say those three entities, those three elements more than suffices when it comes to finding prospective NBA talent as opposed to having a big baller brand? What is your response to that?
The big baller brand would be better because the 3-on-3
How do you know that?
Just for in my opinion,
No, I'm just asking you how you know it. I'm forcing you to be a critical thinker. I'm simply asking, how do you know?
Well, I just think it would be better because it would give kids who don't have the chance, who don't want to go to college, college isn't for everybody.
No, sir, you're not listening to me. Shakir, what I asked you, I brought up college, but I also brought up the 3-on-3 and I brought up the G League because I'm saying to you, those other two outlets don't require you to go to college. So what I'm asking you about the big baller brand, what makes you think that's going to be better than the 3-on-3 or that's going to be better than the NBA Developmental League?
I mean, because, I don't know about that. I didn't know that the NBA Developmental League, you didn't have to go to college to be in there. I thought you had to be coming out of college and be dropped down by your team.
No, you don't have to go to college to go to the G League. You don't have to do that. But go ahead.
You clarified that for me. I was under the impression that you had to be in coming from college or playing for a team to be in the G League.
I'll double check because I've never really had to speak about it, but to my knowledge, that's not the case. You do not have to go.
That's just the impression I was under, because it was mostly people from college and stuff like that in there. I never seen no one just off the streets make the D League.
Okay. All right, man. I appreciate the call, and I'm going to double check into that for you, but I don't think that's required, but I'm definitely going to double check that for you, and thank you for the call. I get your point. Big baller brand. He's a supporter. Let's go to Max in L.A. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
First off, Stephen A., I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to you and yours, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I'm calling because I got a bone to pick with you, man. Earlier today, you were saying that you were shocked that it was the Lakers who stopped the Rockets in their 14-game winning streak. You know what? We're a young team, but we got talent on this team, man. It's obviously incubating right now, but we got some talent on this team, and when they play hard like they played hard last night, they can go with anybody in this league.
Well,
I mean, we took Golden State to 2 overtime.
Whoa. Quote me accurately. Here's what I said. I've been saying for weeks the Lakers got a lot of young, impressive talent. I like them, Randall and Ingram and Kuzma and Larry Nance Jr. and these boys. We ain't even get to Lonzo yet. What I said today, however, is that their one impediment is that they're the worst three-point shooting team in the National Basketball Association. So I don't expect that team to beat Houston. I expect a team that could shoot to beat Houston. I don't expect a team devoid of shooters to beat Houston. That was what I said.
I hear you, but let me ask you a question on a related topic. Obviously, Ben Simmons right now, that guy looks like he has the Rookie of the Year on lock. But do you think Kuzma could eat into that if he keeps up this kind of play?
I think Kuzma's going to be big time. I think he's their best rookie. I think that he's got a sensational future ahead of him. He will be a star in this league. That's what I believe.
Did you see what he said at the end of the game, Stephen, when he was interviewed by Mike Trudell out here?
I did not. What did he say?
He said, so Trudell asked him, he goes, were you thinking about this, when you were growing up and, in college, preparing to get to the NBA? Did you think you could do stuff like this? And Stephen A., cold stone seriously, he said, yep, I did. That kid's got it, man. I'm so happy we got him. I mean, talk about a draft pick. Who knows if he turns into a guy maybe like Tony Parker at the end of the first round.
And I tell you this, too. At a time where Lonzo has had his rough spots, even though I do like how he's starting to come along, Kuzma, the pick of Kuzma really solidifies Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka, because to find those guys, to find a guy like that late in the first round says a lot about Magic and Rob Pelinka, and they deserve a lot of credit for that in their scouting department.
Josh Hart, too, from Villanova. He's been balling when he's gotten these minutes as well.
Yeah, no question. But Josh Hart at Villanova had won a national championship a couple of years back. That's entirely different than what you saw in terms of finding Kuzma. But I get where you're coming from, and I appreciate the call, man. Thanks a lot. 866-729-3776, 866-SAY-ESPN. We'll close out the show with your calls in a minute. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Want to be a part of the show? Hit Stephen A. up weekdays from 1 to 3 Eastern at 866-729-3776.
Blue Moon is brewed with Valencia orange peel and a touch of coriander. It's a creative twist on a Belgian-style wheat ale for a taste that shines brighter. Taste responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
866-729-3776. It's 866-SAY-ESPN. Just a few minutes left to get into with your phone calls. Let's go to CB in Pasadena. You're live at Stephen A. on ESPN Radio. What's up?
First of all, I want everybody to have
Hold it. Don't you dare start rapping. I'm telling you, because you like to do that. Don't do that today. But go ahead and wish everybody a happy holiday. Go ahead.
Leave for Kobe, but no, I'm not going to do you that way. I know you do your little singing. You got some little rhythm and blues in you. I know you like your music, but I don't think I'll go there. But I had two issues. One of the beautiful things about the NFL is, the last 6 games, a lot of them, people are on the bubble, and so they're turning into playoff games. Now, my condolences go out to you and your Pittsburgh Steelers. You guys got jobbed, man. I saw that game. That was an absolute ripoff. Now, the Steelers are a storied franchise with 6 Super Bowl rings, and they're a fun team to watch. Ben Roethlisberger, he played extraterrestrial. But then also this, Stephen A., I'm a Raiders fan. God knows what happened to us.
You know what? Stop right there. Stop right there, CB. Stop right there. Because you always calling up here with enthusiasm and everything else, and I appreciate that. Would you mind taking a moment to explain to me what the hell happened to your Raiders this year? What's happened to them?
I tell you what, our defensive back and our gap integrity on the linebackers, we're not tackling. We got back into our penalty role again this year. And I told you last year, I hate to say it, I like Derek Carr, but I'm not really sold on Derek Carr.
I'm not sold on him either, CB. I'm not sold on him either. I really am not.
Yes. And I want to move to Vegas. Pardon me, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to move to Vegas because the Raiders are coming there.
Now you don't need to move there. You don't need to move there. That's only 8 nights a year, and they probably going to lose 5 of them. Don't you dare. I got to run, CB, but appreciate the call, man, and happy holidays to you and yours. Eric in Long Island, you're live at Stephen A. What's up?
Hey, Stephen A., how you doing, man?
Happy holidays.
Thanks. Listen, this LaVar Ball thing, the whole nation needs to just stop talking about this guy because he is nothing. He's got to try to create things. He's going to have hard time trying to get that league off the ground. You know what I'm saying? People just got to stop talking about that guy.
You know what I would say to you, Eric? Be careful about that. You know why?
Why?
We don't know who's backing him. If you want 80 players and you're paying anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000 a month, you've got somebody with millions in their pocket to give out to these players because he certainly doesn't have them. I think you've got people working behind the scenes trying to usurp Nike, Adidas, and all of those other companies. I think that's what's going on here.
Okay, I mean you might got something there. That's definitely a good point because I know Big Baller Brand ain't got that kind of cash.
That's right. So if he's doing it, somebody backing him, they just a quiet clandestine partner.
You know what? And I kudos to you on that. That's why you're on the radio, my man. I didn't even think about that. Kudos.
All right, my man. You take it easy. Appreciate the call. Kenneth, you're live at Stephen A. Talk to me.
Hey, Stephen. How you doing today, man?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
Listen, I wanted to get your opinion on something. I'm from New York. I live in Atlanta. And I'm trying to figure out why you don't have big-time ball players coming out of NYC like you used to maybe back in the 70s and the 80s. Do they not play basketball in NYC anymore?
I think that what happens is you've got guys that were locked in and zeroed in on one-on-one talent as opposed to a team-oriented basketball. And I think you see a lot of folks that are doing a better job in terms of getting them acclimated to team basketball, structured environments, et cetera, et cetera. You living down south, for example, you back there in Atlanta, like you said, you're from New York, right? But you living in Atlanta, right?
Right.
Well, why are you there?
Better opportunity.
Not just better opportunity, kind of more of a tranquil environment, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
In terms of the hustle and bustle, not to say that streets and the inner cities don't exist anywhere, but New York's a special place, man. And so what happens is that if you distracted with some of those things, the level of discipline, cohesiveness, your willingness to play along with a team, to make personal sacrifices, when you're on that grind and you in survival mode, sometimes it's more difficult to develop than other confines throughout this country. And I think when you're a team, you're looking for those parts that fit, not just the talent. If it was just about the talent, you can always grab stuff from New York, but it's beyond that. And I think that's a problem.
Okay. Listen, I appreciate it, brother. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the call, man. Let's go to George in Long Island. You're live with Stephen A. Go ahead real quick, George. What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me, Stephen A. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you as well.
Thank you, sir. Die-hard Minnesota Viking fan here. Okay. And I think this is the year, man. I think they're legit. I think they're gonna do it. And I think it.
I don't believe.
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't believe you. You know why? I like the job that Case Keenum did, but I think in the playoffs, they're going to amp it up. He ain't going to be able to handle the pressure. They're going to blitz him all day. It's going to be a problem for him. Here's where I would agree with you. I believe with that defense, if Dalvin Cook were healthy, whether it was Case Keenum or Teddy Bridgewater, I would give y'all an edge. But the fact that Dalvin Cook is not that guy. Latavius, meaning he's hurt. Latavius Murray is good, but ain't that good. And you've got Case Keenum or Bridgewater who hasn't played in 2 years. I just think that's compromised you. You'll make some noise in the playoffs, but I think the second you go on the road, I think that nullifies you and it's over.
Might not have to go on the road.
You might not, but you expect it to because the Philadelphia Eagles going to have the top seat.
But they might be upset on their end of the bracket.
That's clear. Or you might lose. Or you might lose.
Of course. Well, listen, you're talking to a longtime fan. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I just think this defense and the way they're coached, the AFC scares me. I mean, and if they made it to the big game, that might be a problem. But on the NFC, I think it's theirs for the taking. I think if they lose, they're going to beat themselves with maybe field goal kicking or I don't know. But
listen, at least you ain't playing in some kind of ice bowl. Your field goal kicker should be able to make it. Your last two games are at Green Bay and then against Chicago, so you don't have to play Aaron Rodgers. You should win your last two games. Let's see what the Eagles do because you might have a point with all of that.
We should make 27-yard field goals too, but we all know what happened there a couple of years ago. Anything can happen, but, who's your favorite in the NFC right now?
Well, right now, to me, my favorite would be the Philadelphia Eagles, but I got to tell you, the Rams are altering my level of thinking. I have to confess to that. I've been very, very impressed by what I'm seeing from the Rams. And I mean, listen, man, Gurley is a stud. And this defense is no joke. No joke. And I wouldn't sleep on this defense at all. And you do have a point because, again, if the Cowboys are playing for something and the Eagles play them the last game of the season and the Eagles are not playing for anything, then that's different. But if the Eagles need that game, that's going to be an epic game between Dallas and Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field. No doubt about that. That can't be denied on New Year's Eve. Got to pay attention to that. Got to get on out of here, but I'll be back in 22 hours. Until then, this is Stephen A. Smith signing off. Until tomorrow. Peace and love, everybody.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.